Hello, dear viewers. Today we will delve into the dark side of human history by discussing some of the most gruesome and torturous methods ever devised. This video is not meant to shock, but rather to inform you about the extreme cruelty humans have inflicted upon each other throughout history. Our list includes 20 of the most horrifying torture methods used across different times and cultures. We'll explore each one in detail, providing historical context and explaining how these methods were used and what they resulted in. Crucifixion. Crucifixion is one of the most infamous forms of execution used in ancient Rome. The victim was nailed to a wooden cross through their hands and feet. Death was slow, often taking days, due to asphyxiation and exhaustion, as the person could no longer support their body with their legs. The most famous instance of crucifixion is the execution of Jesus Christ. This method was used by the Romans to punish slaves, rebels, and criminals considered particularly dangerous. Breaking on the wheel. The condemned person was tied to a large wooden wheel. Their limbs were then struck with a hammer until the bones were shattered. Afterward, the body was left entwined in the spokes of the wheel, where the person would die slowly from their injuries. Breaking on the wheel was common in medieval Europe and was intended as a public execution to deter others. Iron Maiden. This was a metal sarcophagus in the shape of a woman with spikes inside. The victim was placed inside, and when the door was closed, the spikes would impale the body, causing prolonged and agonizing pain. The Iron Maiden is often associated with the Middle Ages and the Inquisition, though historians debate whether it actually existed. Waterboarding. In this form of torture, the victim is laid on their back, their face covered with a cloth, and water is poured over it, creating the sensation of drowning. Despite causing no physical damage, the victim experiences intense fear and stress. Waterboarding has been used during interrogations at various points in history, including modern conflicts like the War on Terror. Chinese water torture. This method involved water dripping at a constant rate onto the victim's forehead in the same spot, eventually driving them insane. This form of torture is believed to have originated in ancient China, but it is also known in European history. Sawing in half. The victim was hung upside down and the body was sawed in half, starting from the groin. In this position, blood would rush to the head, prolonging consciousness for a longer period. This horrific execution was used during the Middle Ages, often for those accused of murder, blasphemy, or treason. Brazen Bull. A metal statue of a bull was hollowed out, and the victim was placed inside. A fire was lit under the bull, heating the metal until the victim was roasted alive. The screams of the victim would be channeled through tubes to sound like the bellowing of the bull. This torture was invented by the Greek tyrant Phalaris as a means of terrorizing his enemies. Breaking on the wheel again. The condemned person was tied to a large wheel, with their limbs tied to the spokes. A hammer was used to shatter their bones, and the wheel was then hoisted onto a pole so that the public could witness the suffering. This method of execution was widely used in medieval Europe and was known as one of the most agonizing ways to die. Spanish glove. This was a metal glove with spikes inside, which was fitted onto the victim's hand. The glove was then tightened, forcing the spikes to pierce through the flesh and bone, causing excruciating pain. This method was used during the Spanish Inquisition to extract confessions from the accused. Judas Cradle. The victim was seated on a wooden stool with a pyramid-shaped spike. The spike would slowly penetrate the anus or vagina, leading to extreme pain and often fatal injuries. This device was used in medieval Europe and was notorious for its brutality. Witch's chair. This was a chair with spikes where accused witches were seated. They were tied down and left for extended periods, often leading to death from blood loss or infection. This method of torture was used during the witch hunts in Europe to extract confessions. Goat-licking torture. The victim was tied down and their skin was coated with salt. A goat would then lick the salt off, which caused painful abrasions and eventually serious wounds. This torture was popular in medieval Europe as a form of punishment and intimidation. Death by 1,000 cuts, lynching. The condemned was slowly cut into pieces, starting with small incisions and gradually increasing in severity until the victim died from blood loss or shock. This execution method was practiced in ancient China until the early 20th century as a form of extreme punishment for severe crimes. Pear of Anguish, the Pear. The Pear of Anguish, also known simply as the Pear, was a metal device shaped like a pear that was inserted into the victim's mouth, anus, or vagina. Once inserted, the device was slowly expanded by turning a screw, causing severe internal injuries and excruciating pain. The metal leaves of the pear would tear the internal tissues, leading to potential bleeding and severe trauma. This torture device was reportedly used in medieval Europe, particularly during the Inquisition, to punish heretics, women accused of witchcraft, and those guilty of blasphemy. Though its use has been debated by historians, it remains one of the most terrifying and infamous instruments associated with historical torture. Sawhorse Torture. The condemned was made to sit on a wooden structure shaped like a horse, often with weights attached to their legs. This created intense discomfort and excruciating pain. This was used in the military as punishment for deserters or other severe offenses. Dunking stool. The victim was tied to a chair and repeatedly dunked into water, each time left underwater longer, causing fear of drowning and asphyxiation. This was commonly used as punishment for women accused of witchcraft during the Middle Ages. Nose and ear slitting. The condemned was made to sit on a wooden structure shaped like a horse, often with weights attached to their legs. This created intense discomfort and excruciating pain. This was used in the military as punishment for deserters or other severe offenses. Spiked boots. The victim was forced to wear boots equipped with sharp spikes or nails, which caused unbearable pain while walking or standing. In some cases, the victim was made to move, intensifying the pain and further damaging their feet. This method of torture was used in medieval Europe and Asia as a form of punishment, particularly for those who attempted to escape or committed theft. Rat torture. A metal container with rats was placed on the victim's abdomen, and the container was heated. The rats, desperate to escape the heat, would gnaw their way through the victim's flesh, causing horrific injuries. Rat torture was used in medieval Europe and Latin America as a means of psychological and physical torment. Ancient Egyptian scarab torture. The condemned was placed in a pit filled with scarabs or other insects. The insects would slowly eat away at the victim's flesh, leading to a prolonged and painful death. Although some historians question its authenticity, this method is believed to have been used in ancient Egypt for particularly heinous crimes. All these tortures demonstrate the extreme measures people would take to punish, intimidate, or extract confessions. Fortunately, today we live in a world where such methods are considered unacceptable and barbaric. However, it is important to remember and study these events to ensure they are never repeated in the future. Thank you for watching this video. If you found it interesting, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and click the bell to not miss new episodes. Let us know in the comments what other topics you would like to see. Take care and stay humane.